What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we are continuing our look at the Transformers trading card game by having a look at Insecticon Skrapnel. Now, I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, it's taken me a while to get around to Insecticon Skrapnel, which is bad, because it might legitimately be the best card in the game. One of my lovely followers over on Patreon, pointed out this week, Stark Maximum, that actually he's seen a list where somebody has listed all Transformers cards as loses to Skrapnel, counter Skrapnel, and is Skrapnel. It has one of the most busted abilities in the game. But I suppose this is probably the point in the video where I should tell you what it actually does. Well, the good news is it's a fairly cheap card. It is a 7 cost. I know, right? That is cheaper than your average Transformer. 7 cost is cheap. Now, with that comes low stats. Now, I say low stats, it's really not actually that low. The attack is 4 in alt mode, which is average, and 5 in bot mode, which is above average. The defense is 3 in alt mode, which is above average of 2, but it's 0 in bot mode. But it doesn't actually matter. But it is 0 in bot mode, which is obviously below the average. It physically couldn't not be. And the health of 7 is terrible. The average health is 12, so you're 1 cost below average while being 5 health below average. But nobody really cares, because in bot mode, yeah, you got low health, yeah, you've got low defense, but you've also got an ability here which says this cannot take more than 3 attack damage from a single attack. That is over the top crazy good. Fine, you got a health of 7, but if your opponent can only do a maximum 3 damage, then that means that you're being 3 hit KO'd. And if you've got a health of 7, but maximum 3 hit KO, I mean, yeah, or minimum 3 hit KO, I suppose I should say. That's really good, ladies and gentlemen. Now, at this stage, we do need to make sure that we point out here the ruling from the official FAQ. Don't worry about Pierce. Pierce doesn't matter. They just only take 3 damage. So the FAQ literally says a character with Pierce 4 attacks Skrapnel in bot mode. After battle cards are flipped, the attacking character would do 2 damage. Pierce raises it to 4. Skrapnel's ability reduces it to 3. So even Pierce here, which quote, guarantees damage, end quote, would not do more than 3 damage. That is nuts, great, awesome. Now, even in insect mode here, it's really not bad. When you flip to this mode, you may KO one of your Insecticons. If you do, tap an enemy that has 13 stars or fewer. Now, as it actually stands at the moment, the most expensive cards in the game are Megatron, which is 13 stars, and Optimus Prime, which is 13 stars. I love how they did that, right? It's Megatron and Optimus Prime. To be specific, Megatron Living Weapon and Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend. So it's everyone at the moment. Obviously, this is future-proofing so that they can make cards in the future that cannot be tapped by this. This, okay, you have to KO an Insecticon, but you're playing 4 wide if you're playing Insecticons, and you're probably going to KO one which is about to be KO'd anyway, and you get to tap one of your opponent's characters, stopping them attacking, which could swing the game in your favour. So the skills here are absolutely phenomenal. Now, in terms of partners, we have options. As far as I'm concerned, I have my team of 4 Insecticons, which I believe are the best. So when I'm playing Insecticons, I'm playing Barrage, which is a 7 cost, Bold 2 in bot mode attacking a damaged enemy, and Pierce 2 on any one of your characters when you flip to alt mode, as well as having an attack of 5 in bot mode with Bold 2. That's a pretty good attacker and a 7 cost. I'm well in with that. Ransack, I am definitely playing here. That is a 6 cost. and the character's attack is equal to the number of damage counters on him, but when you flip to alt mode, you can move 2 damage counters from another character to this one. Now, firstly, I like that you can have a high attack here, but secondly, with Skrapnel, you're only taking a maximum 3 damage. You can then move 2 damage over to Ransack, keeping Skrapnel alive turn after turn after turn. That will take you up to 20 stars, but the good news is we've got Kickback here, which is a 5-star Insecticon. It's not actually too bad. When you're attacking, you flip 2 more battle cards for each other Insecticon with which you began the game. Well, that's 6. Brilliant. And you get to repair 1 damage from one of your Insecticons when you damage an enemy in alt mode. So you can see here, we're keeping Skrapnel alive. We're moving damage over to Ransack. We're healing with Kickback. This sounds fun to me. Now, there are other Insecticons you can choose, but I don't like them as much. Bombshell has very good stats. Well, alright stats. I mean, the defense of 4 in alt mode is huge compared to the average of 2, and the attack of 5 in bot mode is high, but actually the health is lower than average, and it's an 8 cost, and it's got no skills, so I ain't playing Bombshell. We've also got Chop Shop here, which, it's alright. When you attack, you can move an upgrade from one of your characters to this one in bot mode, and when you flip to alt mode, you scrap all upgrades on this character. For each one that you scrap, draw 1 card and repair 1 damage from one of your Insecticons. Now, to be fair, Chop Shop is really nice in terms of providing healing, but the problem is if you take him out, if you put him in, you've got to take Ransack out, and no. I like moving the damage counters to Ransack. I like that he can be a big attacker. But if you want, you could just swap Ransack out for Chop Shop. I don't think you want to do anything other than an Insecticon deck here. I think if you're playing Insecticons, you're going Insecticons. The skills I've just shown you work too well together. Now, the thing is, there are counters to this. Pierce doesn't work, but what I like to call cheeky damage does. And really here, you should be terrified of Plains decks. Because you see, Starscream has got a great ability for Plains. When you flip to alt mode, you do damage to an enemy equal to the number of other planes you have. As it stands at the moment, you cannot make a deck with 4 planes, but you can make a deck with 3, meaning you drop 2 damage straight away onto Skrapnel. That's not very good. The other thing is that Insecticon Skrapnel is a melee character, which means that when you flick Thundercracker into alt mode, you can do 2 damage. So if you did that both in one turn, using Rollout for instance, then that would put 4 damage onto Skrapnel, leaving it at 3 health, at which case you could just go and get a KO. So certainly Plains decks here can use their cheeky damage to go and take this out. Plus you've got things like Zap, Plasma Burst and Photon Bomb, all of which do what I like to refer to as cheeky damage, extra damage outside of the usual attacks. This, with your low health, will be devastating. Low health with attacks doesn't matter that you're getting 3 hit KO'd, but low health with this extra damage really does. The other thing is Cosmos has got an amazing skill whereby when it's attacking and it shuffles its deck, scrap pile, to make a new deck, you KO a defender of 12 stars or fewer. Yeah, that'll get an instant 1-hit KO, which kind of sucks. And less of an explicit counter per se, Bumblebee Legendary Warrior in alt mode can attack untapped characters, which essentially lets your opponent get earlier attacks in than they otherwise would, which can then take out Skrapnel slightly earlier than you might like. But with Skrapnel here, you need healing. With Skrapnel, it's all about keeping Skrapnel alive because, well, the bot mode skill is awesome. That keeps you alive. But you've got a high attack of 5 in bot mode. Plus, you got the alt mode skill that lets you tap your opponent. You want Skrapnel to stay alive. Now, we've already looked at a couple of Insecticons that we can use to help here. Kickback repairs a damage from one of your Insecticons, which is nice. And then we've got the aforementioned Ransack that moves damage counters over. But we do need to do a little bit of repairing here. So we got a couple of cards we can use. Emergency Maintenance helps quite nicely. Heal 1, but if you've got more stars in your KO area than the battlefield, you repair 2 more. That's quite nice. We can use Medic here, which heals 2 damage from one of your characters. Bearing in mind you can only take 3 damage at a time. Healing 2 of them is pretty gosh darn good. And you've got Repair Bay here, which heals 1 from each of your characters. But this does work really nicely with Ransack. You move 2 damage over to Ransack. You keep 1 on Skrapnel, and then you heal the 1 from Skrapnel and 1 of the 2 from Ransack. That will heal up very, very nicely. Now, being an Insecticon, you do have a couple of specific cards you can use. Bug Bomb is great. It's a utility you put on Insecticons, and then when they're KO'd, you draw a card, scrap an upgrade, and your opponent chooses a card from their hand and scraps it. If you can get this on an Insecticon and then KO it using Insecticon Skrapnel here, you're actually in a great position that you can time Bug Bomb perfectly for when it will have the most annoying effect on your opponent. And we've also got Swarm, which, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's like a free of in every Insecticon deck. Firstly, orange icon I like, extra attacking. But you flip a battle card for each Insecticon with which you began the game. So it doesn't matter how many have been KO'd, if you're playing 4 wide like you should, it's always 4. For each orange you flip, your opponent chooses one of their characters and takes a damage. For each blue you flip, repair 1 damage from one of your characters. Which, again, it's healing on Skrapnel, which is pretty gosh darned important. And just before we finish here, there are a couple of other really nice cards we can use here. We've got Heroism. Heroism, basically you put it on one of your characters and it redirects damage to them. You can use that to Skrapnel here, so you can only take 3 damage. But of course, if you put Heroism on and then your opponent attacks 3 times, they'll still KO you. So you've got to be careful about how you use that. And we've also got I Still Function here. Bring back a KO'd character that's got 12 stars or fewer and repair 1 damage from it. At the end of the turn, it's KO'd. Firstly, this is really quite fun with Ransack because you come back with as much damage on as possible. So you've got an attack of 7. But also it's really nice for Skrapnel here. You can just bring yourself back and have a high attack of 5, but you can also bring yourself back and then take advantage of the skill. And what's beautiful here is you bring it back using I Still Function, KO yourself with it, and then tap one of your opponent's characters, or use I Still Function to bring back one of your other Insecticons and then get rid of it with Skrapnel to tap your opponent. This Skrapnel skill with I Still Function is awesome. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Skrapnel has the potential to be utterly brokenly great, but there are some obvious counters. If you can stay away from the obvious counters and get some healing in, this is going to stay around for a long time, tap your opponent's characters, etc. But it is far from a perfect card. It's got to be played correctly, which I suppose is an obvious thing you could say about basically anything. Hey-ho. As for now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think about Skrapnel. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, but please do remember to be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at @Wossy, where I tell you about various things. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.